So we're live on Facebook, and we are, Ayesha and I were just discussing, Ayesha Hamilton is with me, and I will reintroduce her as our attendees come into this webinar. We are talking about empowering women entrepreneurs. And Ayesha Hamilton is the owner at Hamilton Law, and her practice focuses on employment law. And I'm Alisa McCabe, and I'm the owner at First Steps Financial. And we are a dedicated team of accountants and advanced certified QuickBooks Online pro advisors, and we focus on helping business owners achieve success. And then we also have Danielle Gill, who is with First Steps Financial, and she is our digital marketing manager who makes all this magically happen so we don't have to know.
Thank you, Danielle. You're fantastic.
Hello, thank you.
So everything on this webinar and this discussion we're going to have, everything is informational, and the content of this webinar is for general information purposes only. And hopefully people will get a good laugh, information, and Danielle is here to make us behave. If one of us has a potty mouth, she will try to.
Oh, oops.
I know.
Oops.
Might be a little difficult. So we were just talking about what does your morning look like? And so, Ayesha, what does your day look like compared to what it used to look like?
Yes.
So started out.
It involves this puppy, which I'm very glad that I downloaded the app. So it was funny because when we started, 12 weeks ago, I was still in my, I get up, as you and I have been talking, you get the kids ready for school, and then there's sort of this time where you can leave for work, and that went away, right? So we're not getting ready, we're not getting anybody ready for school, but I'm someone who's very schedule driven. I need my plan in place. And so I would still go down to the kitchen table and get out my laptop and, start working. But then there's, people who want food. How dare they? How dare they?
That doesn't end.
No, it's constant. And they're, Mom, standing in front of the fridge with the doors open, there's nothing to eat. I'm like, are you joking? Right? But their version of there's nothing to eat is there's no junk, or there's nothing I can just grab and eat. Because the thought of putting cheese on a piece of bread is too much. So
I totally hear you.
Yeah. And then now I've gotten to the point where I've actually needed to come back into my office. And I'm a solo, I'm here alone. My paralegal's remote. So I come into my office, I lock the door, and I stay here for 8 hours. And
I'm sorry, I'm having envy.
A little bit, right?
When you said you were alone, I think that's what I miss most.
Yeah.
I miss being alone.
That's the crazy part, right? Is I used to always sort of be a little bit sad about, I work alone, right? And I have people that work for me, but they don't work in my physical location. Now I'm like, yeah, I work alone.
Yeah, I very interesting that
now you've always worked. You've always worked remotely, and you have a huge team that works remotely. So what's changed for you?
Well, my work schedule has changed just because I don't have to get kids out the door to school. So I used to get up at like 4 a.m. and work till 6, but I like working then because nobody's online. I can answer emails. But now I don't get up till 6. I start working around 7. I wave to the kids as they wake up and they go do their stuff, meet them at 12 for lunch. And I have 2 older kids that are home too, and they're working. So we all meet in the kitchen and eat. And then, we go back, and my son is now making me a cappuccino in the afternoon.
Okay, I have envy.
I'm like, yes.
Nice.
I did something right somewhere. And then and so that's just like my family life. Now my husband's an essential worker. He's in construction. He's gone all the time. So that's like even a little more crazy because now I'm doing homeschooling, running a business. And when this first started, it was crazy. We worked all the time. I was meeting with my team every single day. It was insane. Now we're meeting once a week. And we hadn't done that before this. And I think we'll continue to do that.
So that's a great positive that came out of this is a different way to look at your business and to make adjustments. And now you're going to implement that going forward, which is fantastic. So what's the downside?
Oh my God, the downside is that I personally hate meetings because so many times they're unproductive. That's the downside, is that sometimes if it's not well thought out, the meetings that we have, the check-ins, they're not as productive as they should be. So it takes more effort to have the meeting because you have to prepare for it. You have to like put it together, make sure everybody has their part and knows what's expected of them at the meeting. So that's the downside. It's a little bit more work, but another thing that I am going to do differently, and someone else had asked me about this, like, what are you going to do differently? And I said, networking. And at first I said, I'm done networking. And that's not truly what I meant, because I belong to the Princeton Chamber, which I love, and I highly encourage everybody to join their chamber wherever they are, because I think they're a good support system. But I'm going to do networking differently now. Like, Ayesha, I met you through networking. So I've met so many incredible people and developed these relationships, but the networking is going to be done differently than previously.
So tell me what you mean.
So
are you staying online? Like, will you Zoom network more?
Yes. I think, and I think what will be really productive in the future for networking is to do these Zoom meetings, is to do Zoom calls and have those conversations. And Zoom is great because you can break up into groups. They can create little groups that people can go into. So you can have 50 or 100 people on it. And they can still talk, but they just go into different groups. And then beyond that, when you do meet somebody, you can say, hey, you want to go grab a coffee?
Right.
So I feel like, I don't know, networking, like going out to networking events for me personally takes a lot of time out of my life. You find that too?
Yeah. And what's interesting is so I'm clear, I'm an introvert. So I will always tell these stories about when I first moved to the area. So 6 years ago, I joined the Princeton Chamber because that's what you do. And it's a fantastic organization, right? And I paid $300 to go to one of these events, they're big 300-person lunches. And I walk in the room and I was like, nope, not doing it. Turn around. And my reaction to that now is, okay, so I need to push myself outside of that discomfort. But actually being on Zoom calls with you or parts of, other networking groups, I actually find that easier, right? So maybe it's speaking to the introvert in me to be behind a screen. The thing I worry about, though, is, are you losing the in-person connection, right? I miss the shaking hands. I miss the hug from a friend, right? I miss that.
Sure.
But none of that's happening anytime soon anyway. So.
No, I know it's totally true. Like, I don't know if you know Hannon Isaacs. He has KLG Law. He's a big hugger.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So,
and he had COVID.
He had COVID and he recovered.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so sick. It was really, really scary.
Right.
But he bounced back.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is you don't know, right? You don't know what sort of, who's had it, who's not, who's asymptomatic, who's not. And that's a big thing my clients are reacting to, right? Is, the governor saying we should be going back to work and we want to go back to work, but how do
Yeah.
we do that? What does that look like? I mean, what are you represent a lot of businesses. What are their thoughts now?
So for the most part, and I thought it was just me, but for the most part, my businesses have not been poorly affected by this.
Good.
A lot of them are actually thriving in this environment. The ones that have been really poorly affected have been like anybody that has a brick and mortar, like we have a coffee shop, and they're closed. And the plan to open them is not conducive to making money. You know, you open at 25% capacity, you can allow 2 people in. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not, and they don't have the facility to be able to do a drive-through. So Gene Marks is a speaker, and he's from the Philadelphia area, and he has over 600 clients, and he has the same bead on this too, that most of his clients are going to be fine.
Yeah.
Those that were unstable before this really suffered. But
It's interesting. I field calls all the time, right? And I don't charge for these because genuinely there are calls from people who are gig workers, who are always on the balance, right? You make it, not make it, right? And I'm happy to hear now that some of these gig workers are getting the EIDL loan, they're getting the PPP loan, but they have no idea how to handle it. So one woman I spoke to says, oh, this is great. Well, I'm just going to deposit it into my account. And I said, no, it's payroll. You don't just get to take the money. You're going to pay payroll taxes. You have to process it like payroll. And she's like, I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, you need to reach out to a bookkeeper, an accountant. I gave her your name because I'm like, somebody needs to help you do this so that you don't jeopardize the loan forgiveness. If you just take the money, that loan's not getting forgiven. You have to have a paper trail. You need an Excel spreadsheet at the very basic level. I'm like, if you don't want to pay somebody to handle this, then go to QuickBooks Online and use their payroll program, but do something. And she's like, oh, well, I'm on this Facebook page and none of the other gig workers in this category are doing that. And I'm like, well, then all of you just took on a really big loan.
Wow.
And to me, it's mind-boggling. Those types of issues. I mean, here's another issue that came to the forefront. Another client is a gig worker, does accrual basis accounting. She's one person. Why would you do accrual basis accounting? And I said to her, let me understand, maybe you're using the wrong terminology. You're booking business and income in this year, even though you haven't earned the retainer yet. And she said, yes. And I said, why would you do that? Because you're now showing income on the books that's going to jeopardize your ability to get unemployment. And they're event photographers. Why would you do that? The event is potentially canceled, pushed out to 2021, but you're booking it as 2020 income. And I'm not an accountant, but that sounded nuts to me.
You know what's interesting too is that this and you're not an accountant and you have a successful business. I think there's a key there. Knowing this information, because it's the basic information that people should know when they start a business. Like, what's the difference between cash and accrual? I have to tell you, most people don't know. Like, honestly, like most people, when we talk to them, and occasionally someone on my team asks, a new client a question like, hey, are you cash or accrual based? And they go, I have no idea. and I want to tell them it's on your tax return. Like, there's a box you can check that says if you're cash or accrual. And
when you're supposed to know that stuff before you sign your return.
I know, it's so interesting. I mean, and it's funny that the biggest problem I've had is, which actually feeds into you. It's so weird because they come to me and say like, oh my God, my employees won't come back to work. What should I do? And I'm thinking, I have no idea.
But that's a big
Again,
fear now, right?
well,
The
I-
PPP loan hinges on you having a head count. And the head count is not happening because people are saying, I don't want to come back because I'm scared I'll catch COVID, or I don't want to come back because my spouse has a high risk condition and I can't risk bringing it back, or I don't want to come back because I'm actually making more on unemployment.
that's the one I hear the most. Well,
That's a tough one, right?
and there is a bill before Congress, I think over the weekend, that's going to change the forgiveness a bit. It's going to change it. It's going to extend it to the end of the year, possibly. And it will change what expenses can be included in the PPP loan.
Good. Oh,
So,
good.
and when it starts, because really, I mean, my coffee shop, if you got the PPP loan, what the heck is he supposed to do with it? He
Right.
can't open. Who's he going to pay?
Right.
You know, so it absolutely doesn't make sense.
You know, one of the things I've seen that I love is watching businesses innovate, right? So we go to Wildflower in Lawrenceville all the time because they are all gluten-free, love their stuff. They started doing the curbside delivery, right? So they'll put stuff out on a table and then you just go up. It's contactless. You've already paid for it online. There's no swiping credit cards, nothing, and you take it. And yes, I don't expect that they're doing the same amount of business that they were before, but they're doing what they need to do to stay relevant and viable. And it's tough.
Oh, I totally agree. Yes, Marilyn Besnier, is that her name? Yes, she owns Wildflower Bakery. She's fantastic.
I love her.
So one of my clients is an audiologist. And so she's really struggling even more so just because she has seniors as her clients. So they're afraid to go out, and rightfully so. They're the most vulnerable. So we were, going over talking about what can you do differently so that you could, can you make house calls? Can you do this? Can you do, we were trying to come up with something. She said, she goes, I wish I was more innovative. She goes, someone just told me about a strip club, and the guy that owns the strip club wanted to keep everybody working. He has a cook. Like at the strip club, they serve food, they have bouncers, they have strippers. So he came up with this idea. He's doing delivery, food delivery. The cooks are cooking. The bouncer drives the stripper to your house, delivers your food, does her dance or whatever, and there's an additional $20 on top of the food price that goes right to the stripper. So everybody gets paid. And I know.
That's innovative.
His goal was to keep everybody working, and he has. So
that's brilliant.
I know. And
wow.
Don't forget about his company. Delivering strippers. I don't know. It's a great way. They call that pivoting the pandemic.
That's crazy. That actually blows my mind.
I know. Is there anything that you've experienced that has been good about this great suppression that some of the economists are calling it?
Yeah. So I feel validated, right? And this is hilarious. So I feel like my online systems, the way I work, my ability to switch from office to remote was easy because I've always had that. When you have kids, you work from anywhere, right? So my kids used to swim at Petty. So I've spent hours just sitting at the pool with my laptop. I had to be set up to do that. So now if I'm sitting at the kitchen table or sitting, at the pool, it's all the same. It's, so I was really thrilled that I had the setup and the security and the ability to do it in place. The other thing I sort of laugh about is anytime prior to this that someone would say, do you want to do a Zoom call? I'd say no. Why would I want to do a Zoom call? I can hear you just fine. I don't need to see you. And I do actually, I'm okay. I'm more comfortable on Zoom calls now. So I feel like, there's a sense of I've grown as a person.
I know it's funny, and Danielle can attest to this. Before this happened, we would do monthly calls for the whole team. And it was a Zoom call. And I would always be camera ready. And everybody would do their makeup and their hair, and even still, some people would still not turn on their cameras. And now, since we started having meetings every day, everybody's on.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask anyone to turn their camera on. And I have not been on a Zoom call yet where someone doesn't have a camera on.
Right.
And I am loving that.
Yeah. And I think it's actually, for me, I put the in my head, I'm going to be camera ready, because that's part of the structure that I need, right? Is to get up in the morning, do your hair, do your face, look professional. And I think it's really, it's sort of just a psychological thing, right?
I think so too.
Just for us to get through it. I joke that like it takes nothing for my husband to get up and be on a conference or a Zoom call, 5 minutes later, because they don't have that much upkeep, right? Is the difference. Except I take that back, right? Because it was about 3 weeks ago. So he was into about 7 weeks or 8 weeks of hair and beard growth without a trim, right?
Ooh.
And he got on a call. He didn't realize and sort of wasn't conscious of the fact that his hair looked nuts. And literally one of his coworkers was laughing so hard he couldn't even catch his breath. And his boss said to him, so my husband works in pharma, and his boss said to him, like, okay, yeah, you win the free lunch for craziest looking hair. And that Sunday, my son cut my husband's hair out in the backyard.
I love it. I've actually discovered a new color, by the way. I think I want credit for this. In the universe, that I have discovered a new color, and it's my hair, because it's now a mixture of blonde, slightly orange, brown, gray. I'm not sure what the color is, but it's there. So
I love it.
You were talking about, someone said it's called ombre. Kapoo, hi Kapoo.
Oh, I like it.
You're right. I'm going to call it ombre. I'm sorry. I didn't discover a new color. I'll just call it ombre. Can I put a name on it too somewhere? We were talking about working from home, and you've always worked remotely. But do you find, like, how do you end your day? How do you go, like, draw the line in the sand? I am done working. Like,
yeah, that's a tough one. That I will tell you. So it used to be that I would leave the office, go home, and then you sort of log back on a little bit later in the evening, and you check emails, kind of respond. Now I feel like I feel like I'm cooking more meals, which I don't love.
100%.
And so that's almost the end to the day. And then I will log back on and just check emails periodically, but I'm not doing any substantive work, because oftentimes we might have a glass of wine with dinner. And we didn't used to do that. And so now I don't, just from a personal perspective, I don't want to do anything substantive that's going to be post my glass of wine, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's really good advice. Always, you know what? It should be a rule of thumb. Maybe we should just put it out there. Rule of thumb: don't drink and then do work.
And work, right?
Or go on Facebook.
Right.
Just saying. I don't know. I just thinking that's a good rule to have. It is hard to stop when you work from home. It's hard to stop.
Yeah,
because it's always there.
But one of the things I noticed I did, so this was just sort of yesterday, and I got such a kick out of this. There was this space launch yesterday, and it's the first public-private partnership between NASA and Elon Musk to actually put the spacecraft on the International Space Station. And I just happened to be like, don't know, it was on the news and I happened to turn it on, and then I sort of actually like watched some of the, like, here we're strapping them in and here we're sealing the craft and all of that. And I really thought, like, okay, so if these were normal times, I would never have taken the time from my day to just sort of be present with that. And I kind of loved it. It's an historic moment, right? These things, it's never happened before.
Right.
I thought it was kind of cool that they had reusable spacecraft. Like, these don't just blow up once they're
I
done.
know. Thank God. Like, how come it took Elon Musk to come up with this? I mean,
Right.
I love what you're saying. Like, we are taking the time to pause on
Yeah.
things. When the Blue Angels flew over,
Oh,
everybody was, we went outside. We took the time to go outside, put lawn chairs outside,
Yeah.
and waited.
I
And
got chills. Yeah.
it was like, it was literally like what, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, you know, they flew over, and it was so cool. And I felt very united with everybody else.
I was standing in the East Windsor Target parking lot and happened to just be there to go buy dish soap because there weren't a lot of
Because
dishes
you can't find that anywhere either.
anywhere. Exactly. I'm not searching for toilet paper. I'm looking for dish soap.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there and I'm looking around going, everybody is standing outside of their cars staring up at the sky. What on earth is going on? So I was like, well, I'm going to stand outside of my car and wait. And then they came by, and it was a once in a lifetime moment for me, because I felt, hey, in a landscape of very little being special right now, that was special. You know, and it just was this sense of, we're going to be okay, you know, and someone did something for us that was really special. And it just was like, you know, I videoed it. I came home. I'm like, kids, if you'd gone to Target with me, you'd seen this.
I felt the same way. And I think a lot of people did too. So again, I think that's something good that's come out of this. You know, there are more things now that are uniting us as a country than dividing us.
Yeah. So how are you handling, like, fear and anxiety? Is that something that you're feeling at all? Is it something that you're trying not to think about? In which case, I'm sorry I brought it up.
I don't have a lot of anxiety anyway. I think I have 6 kids. Look, about anything, they have beat it out of me. So there's not a lot there. But I've actually had to deal with it with employees.
Okay.
Who had anxiety, and not that we work with anybody, but they've had to deal with it. They have again, the kids are home, the husband's home. The world is uncertain, and that can really dredge up, someone who might be only have a little bit of anxiety to really heighten it. It's like pouring gasoline on the fire.
Right.
So, and so me personally, I don't have a lot of anxiety or fears of things. All I think to myself is that I'm doing the best I can. I wear a mask, I wash my hands, I try to keep myself safe. Those that I love, I try to keep them safe. I'd love to go see my mother in Massachusetts and my family and my dad and everybody, but they're older. I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't have it, but what if I do? And I don't be the one that kills my parents, because it'd be a bad thing to live with. So, but for my team, that's when we started doing the calls every day to do that check-in. Hey, how are you doing today?
That's great.
So what have you been doing? Like, how do you, you got a whole family at home too, and they must have.
Not as many of a head count as you do. But yeah, it's interesting because everyone, you spend enough time on Facebook, you see people are posting about kids and their stresses and their anxiety. And so I'm trying to be aware of that and to sort of listen. I think my son is just happy as a pig in poo. He's just thrilled. His school assigns a lot of work. He gets it done. He then is allowed 1 hour of PlayStation time during the week, and then he can play over the weekend. And he's 16. This kid is connecting with other 16-year-olds on the headset. They're as normal. They're fine, right? And he just seems happy. My daughter, though, is much more in-person social. And so she's frustrated. And so we try and take time out when the weather is good. We'll go on walks so she can talk, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of it. A lot of what I'm experiencing with clients and people calling is this ridiculous sense of fear. It's not ridiculous, it's real. The sense of fear of having to go back into a workplace. One aspect of it. The other aspect of it is they've continued to work from home, but because they're in companies that are more than 500 employees, the workplace is not accommodating their childcare needs. And so there's women working in the home, the husband's also working, they have kids under 5. What are you going to do with that, right? Those kids can't homeschool themselves. That's not happening.
No.
And meanwhile, you've got to figure out how do we get that done and join meetings and be productive. And so a lot of women are feeling this harder. And
I think so too.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're cooking all the time.
Yeah, I hate it.
And you know what? And I love to cook, and it's totally set me over the edge because all I'm doing is cooking all the time. I actually got to a point where I put a chart out and said, everybody has to pick a night to cook. You're all old enough to cook.
That's great.
Why am I cooking every night? I work a full-time job. It's not like I'm, like not working and I need to find things to do. That's the least of my problems.
Right.
So the youngest one, she's 12. She put together a schedule. Everybody has a night, and they have to tell us what they're making so we can look forward to it.
I love that the 12-year-old did that. That's brilliant.
And the 12 and the 14-year-old have a night together, and they have to make something because they usually make like pierogies. I think one night they made tacos, but they can make that.
Right.
So
it's important also for them. I guess it's a great learning for them to realize, hey, we can actually do this. Right? It's
and
cool.
even with the schoolwork too, the homeschooling. This homeschooling is. People are like, oh, it can't be done. I'm like, yes, it can be done. People have homeschooled for years, many, many years. And as a public school system, we just don't know how to do it. That's all there is to it. It's like, my kids are learning a lot from that too.
Yeah.
And again, I kind of feel like, and all right, I'm an eternal optimist. Everybody, tells me away the world with rose-colored glasses. Okay. But I do feel like it's good for my kids because they're learning stuff and they're like, Mom, how do I do this? And I said, well, let's Google it. Like, I don't know. And so they're starting to learn how to handle situations when they don't know what to do.
I love that. And I think it's brilliant. It's a sense of independence that maybe we have taken away from our kids, right? So this whole concept of helicopter parenting, where we're always doing everything for them and enabling the laziness, and now because we're working, both parents are working, both kids, and my kids are, 13 and 16 and a half, right? So they can really handle it.
Yeah.
But I think we never let them believe that they could handle it, right? And so now it's I don't know, go figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, Khan Academy is your friend.
Oh, I love Khan Academy.
I'm not going to help you with the math. That's why I went to law school, right? If I did math, I would have gone to med school.
Right. I've been trying to avoid that. Yeah. You know what? It's so interesting that we haven't done this. I listened to a podcast. Mike Rowe, the guy who used to do Dirty Jobs on TV, has this podcast. It's for listeners with a short attention span. They're only like 10 minutes weeks long.
Oh,
I love
beautiful.
them. Yeah. And so he actually had this interesting commentary after one of his podcasts about how, he talked about safety first, and that's kind of a silly thing. He says, if you think about it, he said, if we don't start to take care of our own safety and we allow someone else to take care of our safety, we become lax in it. We don't do it. And I think it's the same thing with our kids, that if we don't let them do these things and tell them that they're responsible for doing it, that they don't take it on because they don't have to.
Well, it's easier to let mom do it.
And you know what? As a mom, sometimes it's easier to do it.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually always easier to do it. just to do it. You don't have to hear about it.
Yeah. Go clean your room. Is your room clean? Yeah, it's totally clean. What if I checked it?
I've been there.
Run up the stairs.
That's pretty funny.
I also want to make sure everybody that's on, please, if you have any questions, and if anybody has any questions, they can put them in the chat box. Someone was posting about parent-side education lawyers out there working to hold the New Jersey Department of Education and school districts accountable to provide actual instruction consistently. Yeah, I mean, I wish, I think this caught everybody by surprise. I cannot blame the school system. These teachers have never homeschooled anybody, not even their own kids. So I you know what? Maybe as parents, we need to figure out a way to, so I have friends that are home as teachers that have no children, but they're 20 something years old and they have nothing else to do. So I, suggested maybe you should do a camp, an online camp. Especially one of them is a biology teacher.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So
Zoom dissections.
I know they actually have that already. One of my friend's daughters was a conscientious objector to dissecting a frog. Refused to harm an animal, and there was a way to do it online.
Okay.
Where you could actually say, "Come on." I think there's other things that we can do, that we can get our kids educated and not put it 100% on the school until they figure it out, because it's coming.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything for so the courts are going to open back up. Your kids should work. Your husband's probably going to go back to work.
Right.
But your kids may not.
Right.
What's
and
that
that,
like?
that will be me, right? Me making sure, because he works an hour and a half away and he has a more traditional in the office type of job. He works for big pharma. So I'm going to take care of that, right? That's going to be still me making sure. And I'm not entirely comfortable with leaving them home alone for 10 hours a day, right? So
no, because what are they going to do?
Right. And that's, it feels wrong. I can leave them alone for blocks, but I'm not going to say, all right, see you this evening. Somebody get dinner ready. That won't be the reality.
Wait a minute. We can't do that? Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. And you know what? The really bad thing about all of this, but it was a good thing because we needed it. It was a lifesaver. We have been relying on DoorDash a ridiculous amount. And at one point, I just said to my husband last week, I'm like, we cannot eat like this. It's killing me. It's killing you. It's killing me. The kids are fine, right? But I just cannot continue to eat like that. But what does that mean? I'm back to cooking dinners.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think you need to ask your kids what their favorite is, and then they say, and let them tell you, and they go, okay, can you make that?
Yeah, you're on call.
So do you think, and someone said to me, and this really stuck with me, they said that as a woman, we feel guilty when we work.
Yeah.
But men, and this is a totally general statement, but they said in general, men don't feel guilty when they work. They feel guilty when they don't work. And I thought, wow, And in
So,
this,
so I feel that, and
yeah,
I'm
I do
sure you
too.
do. And it's because we don't work one job. We
No.
work several jobs. And so if I'm at work, I'm not working the other job,
Yeah.
right? Which is the mom job. And I think it's very difficult to reconcile that.
Mhm.
Um, but then the more money you make, you start to say, yeah, okay, but my time away is justified. Now,
Yeah.
not always, right? And there's always times, even pre-COVID, when your kid's sick and they need to go to the pediatrician, you take care of it. You reschedule what you need to reschedule. But, and someone once said to me, we were talking about work-life balance. And for a while there, that's all anybody ever talked about was work-life balance. And she said, yeah, the balance isn't, you can't have everything at the same point, at the same time. You just can't. So there's some days of your week that are intensely work oriented. And then there may be a couple days here and there that of your month that are kid oriented or spouse oriented or house oriented. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's the balance that you just have to accept. So that, I feel like all of that was something that I was operating with and working well with. And then COVID struck and it threw everything out the window because now everything was too commingled, right? The work
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
life was
yeah.
too messy. There were blurred lines because you didn't get to leave to go somewhere else. And so it still makes me feel bad when I come into the office and I'll say, like, you guys are kind of on your own for lunch today. And there's plenty of stuff. It's not like they have
I
the
know
fridge.
it's not like, you're saying like, okay, there's no food in the fridge, but I got to go to work. And there are mothers that are doing that. We are blessed to be able to just have guilt.
Exactly.
They're not really suffering. I know. And people in the chat box are saying like, make sure that we women have to realize we need to outsource our stuff.
Yeah.
And we have to realize what we do outsource. I mean,
But
I
COVID made us bring everything in house, right? I will say I used to have a cleaning person. I don't now,
know,
right?
I know.
I used to, I don't know, there were just a lot of other things that we used to outsource that, like we're having to take on ourselves.
Yeah. And
It's okay,
and we're taking on
but
everything. I just had that discussion. We found a camp that's open this summer, and I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I'm getting my kid in there first, and then I'll tell everybody what it is. No, it's like, does every single camp we signed up for cancel?
yeah.
Oh, I was like, oh my God. So my husband's like, okay, oh, well, good, sign them up right away. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll sign them up right away after I, work all day and then, get lunch and, make sure that the kids do their homework and, field the call from the teacher that says my kid hasn't checked in all week, those things. So, yeah, no, I don't know. And I don't know what the answer is because I think once we do come out of this, we will start to build those people back into our lives. We will bring back in our cleaning people. We will bring back in other people to help us function because there's no way, even you owning your own business. I always think of everyone that works on my team is a woman and a mother. And I feel like owning a small business is very similar to running a family.
Yeah.
It's like there's all these things going on at once. You got to do all these things. And as the owner of a business, I am always outsourcing stuff.
Right.
I think in a family, you have to decide what can you outsource and what you can't.
Yeah. I think the
Personal decision.
Right. And I will tell you, and I don't know if you feel this way, right? And for the entrepreneurs that are on our call, the greatest feeling is knowing that I control my destiny and that nobody's going to pink slip me. Right. And I mean, there's a lot of stress and responsibility that comes with going and being an owner, but also the fact that I can open up the legal newspaper every week and there's a list of these big firms that are cutting salaries by 30%, that are laying off people, that have cut their first-year attorney programs, they've canceled all the summer programs. And you're thinking, I'm not in that category because I control my destiny. And it means I work a lot, and it means I have to be the chief cook and bottle washer, whereas those attorneys don't have those obligations and they get a much bigger paycheck than I do. But at the same time, I feel like we as entrepreneurs will weather this storm better. And maybe as women, we're going to just come out of it tougher and stronger. And that's really, for me, it's very positive. I just feel like we're going to be okay.
I totally agree. I actually feel that way too. It was part of the reason why I started my company, because I was 40 something years old, and I had 6 kids, and my youngest was like a year old. And I thought, who the freak is going to hire me? Like, because I actually went on a job interview, and the gentleman there, who, if I had known Ayesha, I probably would have sued him. He said, so you're just looking to get a job that you can retire at, right? And I thought, ooh. And he did ask me, he's like, so how old's your youngest kid? I know.
Oh, Alisa.
It's a long time ago. But it was like, I was so insulted. At that point, I didn't care about the job anymore. I was just like, okay, how quickly can I get out of this interview?
Did you use some colorful language?
I should have. I think I was so shocked that somebody would say that, but it also made me think, like, okay, I need to control my destiny a little more. And so that's when I started working, and I really, and it helped me so much. I think even more so because I had kids, and like you're saying, because then you make your life to fit that. An entrepreneur's life, and Caboose and entrepreneurs' lives are uncertain. We're geared for uncertainty.
Yeah. But you know what? Maybe that made us all as entrepreneurs better able to weather the uncertainty of what's happening now, right? We're used to bobbing and weaving. We're used to taking decisions in a split second that say, okay, you know what? That marketing opportunity didn't work out. That's okay. Pivot, right? And that, as entrepreneurs, is something unique to us, because I think most of us think of our businesses as our children, right?
Yeah.
And you do anything you can to protect it. And you do everything you can to make sure that it's healthy. And we do that all the time. So we were prepared for COVID.
Right. You know what? I hadn't thought of it in that light, but it's very true. I you know, because I feel that way about my employees. Like, I love my employees. I truly care for them, and I want the best for them.
Right.
Even when someone on my team came to me and they were very upset, and they said, look, I just can't handle this whole thing. I can't handle everything. I said, what works for you? You tell me, and we'll figure it out. Like, I'm okay with it. You're an excellent worker. Like, you know, I want to help you. And, you know, the best thing for her was to leave, was to totally be at home with her family. And I'm okay with that too. But I cared about them. And I think that, you know, previous experience for the last 20 some odd years, being home and being, you know, juggling all these things and being an entrepreneur for long enough that someone comes to you and says that, you know what to do.
You know what's interesting about that is you and I were talking about a couple of cases that I've had come in the door where women who are working for a large, more than the 500 employee threshold companies are saying that their female managers are giving them a hard time. Female managers, okay? Now, the difference between a female owner and a female manager is that the manager is really like, well, the job's got to get done, right? And that's my singular focus is, if you don't do your job below me, then I look bad. And that's all I care about, right? A female owner, right? At least this is the way I think you and I look at it, as, okay, we're solution oriented. Let's figure out what the pain is. Let's figure out if we can fix it. if there's a reasonable way, if my paralegal says to me, look, I'm homeschooling between 9 and 1, I will absolutely get to it this afternoon. No big deal.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the response that the female managers are giving. So when we were talking about this on our call yesterday, the men on the call were like, what's up with that? Like, what's up with it being women managers not being understanding of it? And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's well, I had to pay my dues, so you have to pay your dues, or all that matters is me. And so
Or is there pressure on them?
Yeah.
I think as women, even as a woman business owner, I feel like I'm held to a different standard than a male business owner. Like so I wonder if they feel pressure. I have a friend who works for a really big company, big pharma company, and she is doing her job and has 3 kids home. And I told her, I said, why don't you just take some time off? She goes, I can't.
Right.
Like, because if I take time off, I'm going to look weak. They may replace me. I said, well, they can't replace you. She goes, yeah, not right now. She said, but if something comes up, they'll say like, oh, she wasn't here for us.
Yeah. When you get mommy tracked, right?
Yeah.
What were her priorities? When the company needed you, what were your priorities? And that's really, I mean, that's sort of the bottom line, right? Is the fear that women face in the workplace. I'm going to get mommy tracked. What do I do?
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's so interesting, when women entered the workforce in droves like it is now. I mean, it's actually very unusual to find a stay-at-home mom. Most people who work in some capacity. I don't think we ever realized what we would have to deal with all these things.
Right.
And how we were gonna.
And actually that we were taking on a second job. It wasn't that we gave up the first job to enter the workplace, right?
Yeah.
So we work 2 jobs. One is uncompensated.
Yeah. But we know that the rewards are great in it. You just don't see them till later.
Right.
In the midst of it, pulling your hair out. At least with and you know what? I get the appeal for women, men, everybody to really focus on your job because the results are immediate.
Right.
You do really good work. You're innovative. Oh my God, people are like, she's amazing. He's amazing. Let's promote them. Let's do this. You get more money, all these different things. But at home, none of that.
Right.
You're the stupidest person in the house half the time.
Right.
Like, even when my kids talk to me about stuff, and I'm like, oh, so your major point is mom's wrong, right? Just so we're clear on that, right?
Can we just skip to the end of mom's wrong?
So your shirt's not clean because you didn't put it in the hamper and you didn't wash it, but that's mom's fault, right?
Always.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It is very rewarding though as they get older. Meg wrote, if our job at home was compensated, no one could afford us.
That's right. Absolutely right. Yeah, so we get paid in wine, I guess.
Oh my God, absolutely. So, we're going to be wrapping up in about 8 minutes. If anybody has a question they want to ask us about anything, but what are you going to do differently? I don't even know, family-wise and business-wise. Will you change what you do at home at all? Like, I'm trying to think what I'm going to do differently. Like, is there anything you can think of once we're released out into the wild? We can, I think there'll be a new normal, everybody will in general. But I think it'll be very strange to be in my house by myself.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to that. But I'm trying to think of what I will do at home that will be different because of what we went through.
Well, our cleaning lady will be back for sure. And that's one thing different. I don't know. I think from a work perspective, I'm now open more to the remote working arrangement, right? Psychologically. I think as I'm, lawyers are very paper driven. And so I really am forcing myself to rely on technology more. So I have to say, like, huge tip, and a friend of mine told me about this. I had at the middle of last year, not realizing that I might need a substantial laptop to work from home. When my laptop was getting older, I switched to an iPad. And the iPad is great, but it's not a laptop. So if I could go over and do that again, I would do that. But one of the apps that a friend of mine told me about is called Notability. And it's fantastic. So if I'm doing a client initial consultation and I need to take notes, and this happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my God, my last legal pad is out of paper. This is horrible. I'm at home. All my office supplies are at work. This is ridiculous. And I'm sitting there going, well, of course I can move to the kids like college ruled line paper. It just didn't sit right with me. My friend tells me about this Notability app where you're writing with your iPad stylus, right? And on note paper, you're taking notes on the iPad. And it really felt very normal for me. So I thought, there's no reason that I can't just be adapting with my technology a little bit better. Using my Google Drive a little bit better, making sure that as documents come in and I happen to be in the office, that I'm scanning them so I'm not lugging around files. And I've gotten in the habit of doing that now. So it makes me less reliant on my office. But someone said to me, so do you think you'll give up your physical space?
Yeah.
I said no, because clients still want to see a physical location.
Yeah.
When they're going to pay the prices I ask them to pay, they want to know that I couldn't, just disappear overnight.
You're legit. You have a place to hang
Exactly.
your hat. You know what? I agree. We've always been heavily technology based anyway. We have, taken it to the next level, that everything that we're doing is even more process oriented. And for clients, I mean, if I had a client local and they wanted to meet, I would. Sure, I'd be like, sure, I'll go meet you. But now that everybody's so comfortable on Zoom, I think there'll be much more Zoom calls. I think there'll be more, because everybody's gotten comfortable on it. It's those, I had clients that weren't comfortable, even potential clients. And actually, I was totally surprised. I have a call today and I said, hey, we'll do a Zoom call. And they wrote back, actually, do you think we could do a phone call? And I was like, what? The phone?
What is that?
But that's what they want to do, because I have really, really enjoyed Zoom calls over phone calls.
Yeah.
Because you can see people's faces, you can see their reaction, you can see so much about it.
Yeah. And I love that is such a validation for your business model, right? You were always doing this. And now yours is the business model that we are all trying to emulate. So it's kind of cool, right?
It does. It's like we've been working at this for so long, and Danielle can attest to it. She's been around for a while, and she's actually seen all the iterations of where we started, and now it's finally getting to where, my vision was of where it would be. And it's taken a long time. And
I want another plug for you, my friend.
Yes.
You told me about Asana. I had never heard about it, never used it. Because you told me about Asana last year and I got it up and running, I am now able to work remotely with my paralegal so well, so easily. And it's essentially this task management software where I create a project for each client. We set up objectives, tasks, deliverables, and it's seamless. And it's just one of those things of, I used Asana before. The time that, between when you told me about it and when COVID hit, I used it. It was okay. Mm-hmm. Now we're in like Asana overdrive, right?
Yeah.
Because it's fantastic. It's great.
And And so I have a little bit of geekiness for you for Asana because, somebody turned me on to it and they're like, you can use tags. And if you use this, I didn't even know tags was in there. You can tag things and then you can sort by the tags. So yeah, it's like, so, and then also on it, there's conversations.
Right.
So we actually created a conversation about COVID and about all the new things coming out. And so everybody on the team goes to there and you can see everyone's conversation about this subject.
That's cool.
So it was very, very interesting. And you can do it with your clients. And we're thinking about implementing that where, each client, you can go in and make conversations. And that way the conversation lives there and not in email. Because, even if you send the information to somebody, they get an email that has that information and they respond in the email, it still goes into Asana in the conversation.
Right. And keeping all of that together is brilliant, right? I mean, then you can say to the client, as I sometimes have to do, but this is what you chose to do. This is the pathway you picked.
Yeah.
I advise otherwise. But here's, so always CYA.
Always. Well, I'm sure everybody has to get to starting their day. It was so much fun talking to you. And I think we need to do this again because I'm sure in 2 weeks we'll have more conversations to come up with. So, Ayesha, thank you again for taking
Thank you, Elisa.
chat. And
this is a great idea. You really, did this great.
And everybody on, apparently everybody, Michelle Huber is on and Denise Dwyer. And there's a bunch of people on here and it's been great. I've been reading through the chats as they post stuff. It's been some great conversations. Thank you everybody for joining us.
I just wanted to mention there was also a lot of comments, and I think you and Ayesha are a great example of the importance of networking and what you get out of networking and taking it to the next level and staying connected. And you had mentioned that you and Ayesha met through networking and it has spun into such a working relationship, and you guys are such good resources for each other. So I think this webinar was a great example of everyone staying connected and bringing more entrepreneurs in to share your experiences with.
Oh, thank you. Danielle, we couldn't do this without you, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Danielle. Woo!
Thank you.
All right, everybody have a great day, and we will catch up with you soon.
Have a great week, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.